Hello, my wonderful, beautiful Maverick Nation, broskies and broskies. I am the Dark, the Shadow, the Maverick. I am the Dark Shadow Maverick. Yeah. The water door. Ching, 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 ching. And time resumes. Oh, hell yeah. I am here with part freaking 6 of what Izuku was the Lagiacrus. Now, a little something interesting about this part is, well, we are going to start off in basic, sort of like a flashback land other perspective. The perspective of a certain Tenko Shimura. Because All For One hasn't really entered the picture, so he's not Shigaraki. He's Tenko. Yes, Tenko! We are not covering his part in this little story of ours. But hey, My Hero Academia is an anime, so Naruto's an anime as well. Yes, they're both animes, so... Plus, they're also both mangas, so... Why not have some fun with that? Basically, Tenko Shimura, is just a certain thing. Tenko Shimura didn't know much freedom in his life. And it was until he was found by the newest of the Jack Sparrows. And basically put on the crew as their basic to-do list boy. Yes, the to-do list boy. Basically, they, dock at the surface. Sometimes they'll be out at sea, but whenever they decide to dock at the surface, their to-do list boy, Tenko Shimura, will basically be given the task of finding things that are on the to-do list, getting those things, and bringing them back to the ship. And the pay that he gets, he is allowed, basically, the continuation of his life. If he does everything correctly and perfectly, he doesn't have to die. Even more incentive to do this, 100% perfectly, is the fact that what basically he's been told is that if he ever does mess up, and, the whole killing him thing does end up happening, it will be a slow and painful death, instead of a quick and painless one. So that's some incentive, don't you think? To do your job right? And, Tenko, basically now the to-do list boy of the entire whole thing, with the Jack Sparrow number, insert number here, current day Jack Sparrow, the current day one, being the captain of the ship, and basically them having a to-do list boy by the name of Tomura Shigaraki. And actually, he was so young whenever they first found him. He was 3 years old whenever he first started his job as a to-do list boy for these people. However, there always has been something that's intrigued Shigaraki. He's hearing of a certain clan of people. Certain clans, actually, more than one clan. Certain clans Basically the ones he's heard the most about are the Uchiha, the Senju, and the Hyuga. Yes, Uchiha, Senju, and Hyuga. One thing that he has definitely heard about the Hyuga, one thing that definitely has a kind of, sparked his interest, sparked his interest about the Hyuga whole thing, is apparently there are these things called devil fruits, and apparently the Uchiha, Senju, and Hyugas, they all have devil fruits. But nobody knows how many devil fruits each clan out of these three have. They might have one per each, they might have two per each, they might have three per each. There might be certain clans out of the three that have more than others. But it's just the entire thing about devil fruits. He's heard rumors of what the devil fruits of the Hyuga clan might be. The devil fruits that they possess. And lucky for him, I guess you could say, he actually gets a job as, to raid the Hyuga compound upon the surface. Basically, surface level Hyuga compound. Remember, everything is Subnautica logic now. Everything is, mostly covered with water. And so, yeah. That's basically the job that Tenko was given. Basically, raid the compound, and, apparently there's all this shit on the compound. Find this shit, and take it, and, well, bring it to us. We want their shit. Because, well, the reason why the Hyuga compound that they're attacking is because it's believed that out of the three compounds, Senju, Yuha, and Senju, Uchiha, and Hyuga, that the Hyuga compound is their weakest, the weakest compound out of the three. And so they decide to attack the weakest. The weakest compound out of the three compounds. And so they go after the weakest first, just to, slow ride, take it easy kind of shit. Bullshit, all that shit. Slow ride, take it easy. And, well, Senko never really, wanting to tell any one of those people that he has a quirk, or if he does have a quirk, if they did figure that out, what his quirk was. That is, unless he was actually threatened with death. That's, the only time he would ever tell. Tenko is just moving about, scaling houses like he's creating Spider-Man or something. Houses and trees and shit. And, he just gets to the heart of the Hyuga compound, which is this building, which is the house, the home of a certain Heihachi Hyuga and his two, basically Heihachi Hyuga and his wife and his two daughters. His two daughters being Hinata Hyuga and their newborn Hinabi Hyuga. Hinata Hyuga is pretty much only 3. And, it hasn't even been a year yet, but, Tenko already feels like shit. And since it hasn't been even a year yet, that means Tenko is still 3, because that's whenever he was caught. But he already feels like shit, so, he's just like, if she's only 3 and I'm only 3, maybe we could actually get, like, an agreement on something. And, they didn't actually, say or have it on here that human trafficking was against their code. Like, they didn't have it on here that it was against their code, but they didn't exactly have it on there that it was against their code. Basically, like, you're just gonna take a wild shot in the dark and say that human trafficking. And he's going to human traffic, or at least try to do his best to human traffic Hinata Hyuga. But apparently he has better luck than the Cloud Ninja, because he's actually able to successfully do this. Literally, while she's asleep. Just sneaks in there and carries her by, like, 3 out of both fingers on his hand. Because he knows that if he touches, like, her with 5 fingers on one hand, or either hand, like, she'll be disintegrated. Basically decayed. Because he knows that's what his quirk is, but he hasn't told any of the pirate people. Not even the captain or the lookout. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. And so, yeah, basically, just carrying, like, with 3 fingers, both hands, carrying Hinata Hyuga away. Being very stealthy, and he's somewhat believed that the reason why he's so good at this, just sneaking out, even while carrying someone with only 3 fingers for each hand, is because of his, like, ancestry. His power of one for all that flows through, like, his blood, because he is the grandson of Nana Shimura. And it might just be the case that this blood flow of one for all, like, deep from within him, even below the actual gene of what his quirk actually is, might actually be something that's helping him do this successfully, or at least more successful than a Cloud Ninja. Yeah, I mean, that's gotta suck. Like, you have, like, one of your ninjas get taken out so easily, like, found so easily, and then taken out so easily. They die from just one attack. Basically, Tenko reports to the captain, goes to the captain's quarters, knocks on his door. The captain's like, "Why the hell is... Oh, Tenko, you returned. Wait, who's that with you? I didn't say anything about..." And then, Tenko's like, "Well, no, you didn't, but you didn't exactly say anything about not, or like..." So basically, kind of like double standard shit. Like, basically pulling double standard shit. Like, you did say get all this stuff, but you didn't say that I couldn't get other stuff, along with the other stuff that I already have. Like, I successfully got all that other stuff, but I also got this person. And they're also, like, still asleep somehow. Am I that good? Like, Jesus Christ. And the captain would just be like, wait. She seems to be partially still asleep, but her eyes are partially open. She's either blind or a Hyuga. Well, we did indeed tell you to invade the Hyuga compound. Wait. From that look, the look of her. Oh my. That's Hiyashi's girl. Like, is it Hiyashi or Hisashi? Like, it's one of those two. That's so-and-so's girl. Not the newborn, but the one that is only age of 3. Like you. And Tenko's like, yes, sir, I am aware. This one is indeed Hinata Hyuga. And the guy is just like, good. Now we could have 2 hands on our little to-do list. She can join you. He's just like, Tenko's just like, what? Like, Nani? Nani the fuck? Like, okay. Sir? I also got this, like, technically, I didn't mean to, but, it kinda came with the package. Like, maybe around the time that she actually did fall asleep, she had this in her hands? Maybe she was, like, inspecting it, because it does indeed seem to be unlocked. And, the cat just sees it is indeed an unlocked chest, big enough to house not just 1, but possibly even 2 devil fruits. But the captain, just like, well, his quirk should be good enough for now. So, he's just like, Tenko, seeing as you and the Hinata girl are going to be partners on our little to-do list regimen, you both can take a gander at what's basically the contents of the chest. But, well, you know where your room is, right? You didn't forget. And Tenko was like, no, sir, I did not. And, basically, it would be in the middle of the night whenever, finally, like, it would be like midnight hours, whenever Hinata would finally, like, wake up from her little stupor. And, well, she would find, well, not exactly the Kyuubi kid, or at least that's what that boy was known to be called, the one who saved her from those bullies, or at least tried to. At least diverted, like, attention from, like, her. She actually felt pretty sad that he had to get beat up instead of her, like, he was so selfless as to do that. And technically, she never did get his name. So all she really does indeed know him by as of now is just the Kyuubi kid. Because that's pretty much what those bullies were calling him. Like, the Kyuubi kid. Because they know that the Kyuubi is inside of him. Apparently. So, Hinata hasn't developed a full-on crush on Naruto yet. But, like, hints of it are there. Not enough to, like, cement that she, like, likes him that much. But enough to, like, at least, like, well, he saved me, that's very nice of him. That kind of thing. And then, as she was waking up, there would just be someone, hello there. And Hinata would freak out, like, well, where am I? And it would be like, shh. We're on a ship. The captain is the current Jack Sparrow. And Hinata would, like, get herself back together, get back into gear, and figure out, like, what situation she was in. And she'd be like, You took me. And Shigaraki's like, well, yeah, 2 + 2 = 4. Yes, I did. But, if I hadn't, well, I was basically sent out here to the, sent out to the surface to look for stuff and find it and, take it back onto the ship. But I didn't exactly know if it would be okay or not to, like, human traffic someone to the ship. Especially seeing as, the captain and everyone else on the ship seemed to be doing a lot of talking about the Senju, Uchiha, and Hyuga compounds and the possibility of devil fruits being in your possession. And Hinata's like, oh, so that's what these things are. And she would just open the chest fully, and, Tanko, getting pretty hungry by now, would be like, they said that these things are supposed to taste terrible, but they do indeed give you powers. Well, from the little checklist, well, not so little, really. Maybe I'm just, like, really short, is why it seems so damn big. Little list of different devil fruits, and he just gazes at the devil fruits, and he sees the Suna Suna no Mi and the Ito Ito no Mi. And Hinata would be like, Suna Suna no Mi and Ito Ito no Mi? Yeah, the Suna Suna no Mi gives people, like, sand powers, so at least that's what I was, heard from, like, hearsay up on the ship. Like, rumors and hearsay. And the same thing, like, rumors and hearsay that the Ito Ito no Mi gives people string powers that, eat it. And, the good thing is you don't actually have to eat it all. Just, like, take a small slice. Which really helps with the fact that these things are supposed to taste terrible. Like, extremely terrible. Like, each and every single devil fruit ever is supposed to taste terrible. And Hinata would indeed realize that, well, while this guy did, carry her away, she was just now realizing everything, like, playing it back in her mind. He only did it with 3 fingers for each hand. And she would actually pry for him for that information so long that Tenko would just admit that it's because of his quirk. Like, if he puts 5 fingers on anything, basically it will decay. And, Hinata's actually been thinking about, like, should she say it or should she not? Like, she's pretty much by now, like, basically convinced that she will not be seeing our family anytime soon. So, basically, with a heavy heart and knowing what has been happening to the lesser branch members, the ones that get out of line, the cursed bird cage seal thingy, and not really liking that at all. So basically she just swallows her everything and, like, tells Tenko about the secrets of the Hyuga clan, at least as far as she knows. And, considering the Suna Suna no Mi gives sand powers, and the Ito Ito no Mi is supposed to give string powers, that's whenever, seeing as Hinata also seems to be very hungry as well, like, if her stomach is telling the truth. Like, both their stomachs are growling insanely. And, Tenko's just like, don't you dare act like I didn't hear that from you. And Hinata would just be like, don't you act like I didn't hear that from you the same. And Tenko's like, well, I'm not the one captured here, now am I? Oh, what am I kidding? It's the entire reason I'm actually here. They captured me and gave me the job of to-do list boy. Hasn't even been a year yet. And I was only 3 whenever they got me. Though, with the destructive quirk that I've had, and they didn't even notice that that's why everything, my entire house and all my family that were there, everything was destroyed. That or killed. I didn't even notice it was me who did it. With my terrible quirk. Well, at least with the help of Devil Fruit, it would replace my quirk with something that, you know, the more and more time goes by, should be easier to control. Unlike this current quirk, it basically is impossible for me to control because of how much it relies on my emotions. How much of an emotional wreck I am all the time. I just can't help it. I hate this. He even brought up the idea of special gloves. The captain did. Captain Sparrow, Captain Jack Sparrow. And basically Hinata would be like, well, this sand quirk, there should be more than one ability. It's not exactly a quirk, it's a devil fruit. There should be more than one ability that it has. What specific ability would it be that it helped you? And, well, Tenko would tell her, basically, he would just say, dry out. And basically, to him, that's the closest thing he could think of that would replace his decay quirk. And that, because quirks and devil fruits work differently, might even be a little bit, not too much easier, but a little bit easier. At least he would have some control. Like, not every time he touched something with 5 fingers, he would automatically disintegrate it. He would have at least some control over what he decayed and what he didn't decay. And by how much. Now, he's killed a lot of people on accident. And, it's kind of been really traumatizing for him. Like, a lot of people, and it hasn't even been a year. And he's only 3. It's like how Hinata's only 3. But hey, by the time, now that everything's been happening, they probably sailed so far away from the Hyuga compound and away from, the surface altogether, that even if they did want to find her, they wouldn't be able to. I mean, at least every surface dweller should at least now know about the legend of the Jack Sparrows of the past, present, and possible even future, and how they're ridiculously hard to kill. And, the rest of the crew aren't exactly slackers, like Slifer Slackers either. Slifer Slackers. Thank you for that, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thank you for that. Indeed. And so that just basically purely cements it for Hinata. Yeah. Unless she somehow manages to become independent on her own, she's not getting back to her family at all. But the more she thinks about it, she doesn't exactly seem to like her family at all. And, the more and more they talk about it, and the hungrier and hungrier they get, the more and more Hinata starts to think, well, you even know which one's the Suna Suna and which one's the Ito Ito. I personally think you should have the Suna Suna. I mean, that tryout ability is supposed to be, at least, it should be a good substitute for your current quirk. I think it would be perfect for you to eat the Suna Suna so that you wouldn't have to worry about all these problems anymore. I mean, at least that'd be doing some good. me advising you to eat the Suna so that you wouldn't have to be miserable anymore. Or at least not as miserable as you are currently. And, Tenko is just like, man, this girl, like, she's very nice. Like, Jesus, like, I kidnapped her and she's being very nice to me. Like, I pulled some human trafficking bullshit. She's being very nice about it, though. And, Tenko would indeed realize that he is very hungry, actually. So, just go over to find the silverware and take, like, 2 thin slices. A thin slice of the Suna and a thin slice of the Ito. The Ito slice being for Hinata, basically telling her that he can see it in her eyes. He can see the distaste for her clan. You can kind of see it in her eyes. Like, everything that's going on in her head and in her soul. And in her heart. So, and the more he thinks about it, powers like, the powers given to somebody, Ito. And that's not the end-all be-all, but for now, at least, it'll have to seem like that, Tanko's thinking he'll tell her about the other thing, but only after they've both eaten themselves a slice of their own devil fruit. He only plans to tell her after they have both committed completely by eating a slice of the different devil fruits. Suna for Tenko and Ito for Hinata. Whenever Tenko thinks about it, these, like, string abilities that the Ito gives a person could be very good, like a very good, handicap, that, basically, the, special taijutsu that the Hyugas use, it would be a very good, like, sort of replacement that even would have, like, extra benefits beyond what the, Hyuga taijutsu normally gives a person. So he's thinking, like, yeah, this is probably the smartest thing we can do right now. And also, like, refraining from telling her about the other thing, that is until we eat our respective slices. Basically, Tenko would go to, considering they're on a pirate ship, and no one really seems to care what they do as long as they, do their jobs, he, gets something, like 2 cups, and pours whatever that something is in that bottle that he has. He pours that stuff in 2 different cups. Not wanting to know what the heck that stuff is. And Shigaraki's like, I know you're only 3, but I gotta ask you this. You know how to read, right? And, you're not feeling a tad bit insulted, but, like, she doesn't want to seem stupid, so she goes to read what's on the bottle. Scotch. Well, it's not really just scotch. It's more of a blend of scotch and something called sake. And, there's even, like, a little tune that Tenko's been humming in his head the entire time that he was going over there to get the scotch. To ask what the tune is. And he said it's a little thing that he's heard the sailors sing whenever they would drink, but it wasn't really scotch. They would drink something called sake. It would either be that or they would drink the blend of, scotch and sake. They always had him, drink scotch because they didn't think he was strong enough, that he had a strong enough immune system to take both down. Or just sake regularly. And, he eventually tells Hinata that the tune is its little ditty by the name of Bink Sake. Or Binks' Brew. It's it has two different names. You can either call it one or the other. There's two different names. Bink Sake or Binks' Brew. They basically have the same lyrics, only slightly altered due to the different titles that you can give it. It's only a slight alteration, though. It still pretty much goes on to the same beat. And, well, basically, he's heard the tune before, so he's just pretty much what I usually like to call it is what I believe I've heard before, saying, Bink Sake. And you're not just Bink Sake? Oh, that doesn't even sound nice. And so, Tenko would be I may not exactly have the best voice, but maybe I could help you sing along. And he would actually spread out a sheet as they would both eat the pieces of devil fruits. The Suna Suna for Tenko and the Ito Ito for Hinata. And, well, they would basically go for the cups as fast as possible, as fast as humanly possible, and just chug. And the moment that they would plop those cups down, Hinata would be sing it! And, Tenko would be rightio. And all of a sudden, you would just hear the singing. If you listen, close enough, you would hear the singing, on the very bottom part of the boat, you could hear singing of the tune. Binks' Brew, or Bink Sake. It's more popularly called amongst the ship. Some call it Binks' Brew, but the majority of the people on the ship call it Bink Sake. And basically, the next day is really more of an off day. They're just adrift at sea, so nobody really has anything all that much to do. And so, pretty much, Shigaraki's basically, this is considered a day off for him. I'm not sure Shigaraki, Tenko. Tenko is basically, this is basically what he considers a day off. Whenever they're just adrift at sea, too far away to get to any land, all that much. Or any land that would have anything all that valuable. So they're just adrift at sea, doing whatever the hell they want, really. And, he would just find himself, waking up, and he would basically be on a chair, and right in front of him, his hands would be on a piano, as he would lift his head up from, a little sheet thing, and the word being Bink Sake. And that's whenever Tenko would remember everything. He was playing the piano like no one has ever played the piano before. He had actually got onto the piano and started playing, just to complete the entire image. Hinata didn't really seem to care, just as long as something distracted her from the horrible taste of the freaking Ito Ito no Mi. Basically, they just be doing their own thing. Finally, just looking through all the different pages to try to make sure he didn't get any drool on any, of the sheets. And, he'd just be like, whew, Good God, thank God I'm not a jeweler. And then he'd be like, oh shit, where's the Hyuga girl? Her name, Hinata? Hinata! And Hinata would just be like, thanks, bro. Like, she'd just be like singing along. Yeah, she would really have enjoyed that. You know, that whole downing. It would indeed be true that they had a lot more tougher immune systems than the pirates on the main part of the ship thought they did. But, basically, once, Tenko finally went all slap city on Hinata to wake her up, Hinata would just be like, oh, hey, Tenko, how you going? What you doing? And Tenko would be like, he would just be like, give a little bit of a bear claw and like, Hinata would be like, okay, I'm awake, I'm awake. Jesus! Yeah, the captain himself would have taught Tenko how to use the bear claw to wake someone up. Because, the captain liked Shigaraki, Tenko. He liked Tenko. Liked him a lot. He got the job done, and he got like a lot of the jobs done quick. And well, basically, Tenko would just be like, have you noticed any sort of weird changes? And Hinata would be like, well, besides the fact that several of the support beams down here are cut to shreds, wait, did I do some crazy powers while I was, tipsy? At least that's what, some of the people in the compound call it. Tipsy. And Draco's like, well, you're not wrong, but, oh, wait, those are support beams. Are you sure you're trying to kill us? Get us crushed under the weight of the ship? And, Draco actually begins to realize, wait, she not only tore them apart, but she used the strings to not only tear them apart, but fix them once she was done tearing them apart. And she did a damn well good job of both. So yeah, basically all throughout the night, Hinata was learning how to use the Ito Ito no Mi. And she wasn't even, sober. So yeah, it's a miracle that she was actually able to fix what she had torn apart. Now that Hinata was actually sobering up, she would use more of her abilities, and she would actually get the hang of the Ito Ito no Mi relatively freaking fast. Beyond relatively freaking fast. Shigaraki was considered a little bit of a lightweight. At least he did. He considered himself a little bit of a lightweight. So, yeah, no wonder he didn't do any much training. But once he got it down and got the balls to actually had to control his emotions, he started trying his hand at things. Excuse me. And he just looked for things that he thought would be better to train on than actual support beams, so that they didn't get crushed. Like sandbags. And, well, wooden dummies stuff. So, yeah. Basically, the first thing they would try is to put all like 5 fingers on a little wooden dummy. And instead of the decay quirk, he would realize the dummy was becoming completely sand. And it was like all dropping out like a big lump of sand. He successfully used the dry out ability. And, well, the more and more time that they spent out at sea, the more and more, time off, Tenko got to spend with Hinata, and the more time they got to spend with each other, the more time they got to, know each other, and, practice their devil fruit abilities. To the point to where both of them actually got something special. And seeing as, Hinata actually started her training sooner than, Tenko did, she was actually the first out of the two of them to get it. That thing being Devil Fruit Awakening. And literally, because of this, she actually came up with a cool name for a special attack. Literally, she would basically just ask Tenko to line up a bunch of dummies. Say around 16. It's right in front of her. And, Tenko would be like, okay, why 16 though? That's just something he would be internally saying in his head. But he wouldn't really say anything out loud. He would just, look in front, and Hinata would basically just be like, she would actually stick some sandbags to the top of the area where they were at, at the bottom of the ship. She would stick some sandbags there, and she would pull some finger strings out and attach the strings to the sandbags, which would cause her to basically end up levitating / flying. And that, she would just be like, oh, don't stop now, Tenko. Don't stop watching now. That's only the start of the cool stuff. Now, I can kind of tell from some, basically, try not to mumble so loud that it almost sounds like you're talking, but not. And Tenko actually realized, wait, was he actually mumbling about the whole other thing? And that's whenever he realized, oh yeah, he was mumbling about the entire thing. And that basically would have been the other thing that he was going to teach her after the whole devil fruit thing was, gotten, done and over with. And that other thing being hockey. And the 3 different types being observation, conquerors, and armament. And basically, Hinata would admit while she was suspended in midair that she sucks at freaking conquerors. And however, in the other 2, she's actually very adept. So much so, basically, observations, she can literally see up to 5 seconds in the future. She actually got so far into observation that she learned how to sense into the future. Not only that, but 5 seconds, up to 5 seconds in the future. She's that good in her observation. And she actually believes that it could pretty much be because of her Byakugan. That she's so good at observation. That she was literally able to, sense up to 5 seconds in the future. Using her observation hockey. But, the other hockey that she's adept in is armament. And basically, she's like, and that's what I'm about to do right now. And she would just, summon some, string stuff. But then she would know that, basically, Tenko would notice that at the end of like the string things, there would be like tipped with like the color of arm hockey, like coated at the very tips. And that's when Hinata would say, what was it? I, I may not be saying what it actually said, but I think I got the majority down. Basically, like, 16 heavenly bullets! God thread! And basically that's what happened. Basically, God thread. And, like, there would be 16 wooden dummies, and for each wooden dummy, a God thread would shoot out. Like, bam, 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 bam! But instead of, like repetition, it would be all at once. So, basically, there would just be a big explosion of wood everywhere. Like 16 heavenly bullets, God thread. Doflamingo's strongest attack. And because of her adeptness in, armament hockey, she actually says that she's both adept in the attack part of armament hockey and also adept in the defense part. Basically, she would actually ask, Tenko to punch her, go and try and do that. Basically, Tenko would be like, okay. He'd get a running start to, like, improve the power because, like, Hinata would tell him to not hold back. So, Tenko would start up with a running start and try to punch. And then Hinata would hold both her hands out and say, spider web. But it wouldn't be a normal spider web like what Doflamingo tried to use to, shield himself from Luffy's King Kong gun. It would actually be fully covered in armament hockey. It wouldn't just be a regular spider web, it would be fully covered in armament hockey. The defense part, not the attack part. And basically, there would just be an explosion of sand. Like, the entire arm, entire right arm would just be blown to bits of sand. And then it would all reform back together. Basically, Tenko realizing, holy shit, he cannot actually be, fatally damaged, fatally wounded, while, he is basically after eating the Sunasuna no Mi. They've trained so well that it's pretty much, basically, it's kind of like second nature to them. Basically, doesn't even have to do anything, and he just, exploded into sand. So, he wasn't even hurt. Even though, he just punched an armament-covered, freaking armament hockey-covered spider web. Shield thing. And, Hinata would be she'd be impressed about her ability to cover, the entire spider web in hockey, armament hockey. But she would also be impressed with, just how quick, fast, in a hurry Tenko learned how to fully, get himself adept with his devil fruit power of the Sunasuna no Mi. Basically, he punched it, and his entire arm exploded, but it exploded into sand. It's basically meaning that he has a very good mastery of the Sunasuna no Mi's powers already. And they both basically, after training for a while with both the powers of the devil fruits that they have, the respective devil fruits, and also the powers of, different types of hockey. One thing about Tenko, though, is the one thing that Hinata couldn't get is the one thing that Tenko gets in, freaking spades. Conqueror's hockey. And basically, with this Conqueror's Hockey, basically mind warps Hinata into like this stupor of just not even like nobody even knows, like just like melts her mind, but not in a really like lethal way, but just enough to like kind of get her to submit without actually, lethal force. Kind of like the person's will is stronger than the other person. The Conqueror's Hockey wouldn't work if it was weaker will, but, Tenko, after going through all of his shit that he's had to go through, all of his, like, life that he's been on this freaking pirate ship, and plus, his quirk already sucks, like, the quirk that he did have before he, like, gained the sand powers, especially dry out. But even before he got abducted, like, he basically screwed his house and his parents over by killing them and destroying the house. So, either way, he would have been screwed either way, So basically, at this point, it's basically the end of their training with hockey and their devil fruits. Sunasuna no Mi for Tenko and Ito Ito no Mi for Hinata. With Hinata being adept in both like the attack part and defense part of armament hockey, and being really good in observation hockey to the point where she can see 5 seconds into the future. But, kind of sucking at Conqueror's Hockey. And Tenko with kind of the reverse thing, where he's really good with Conqueror's Hockey as long as the person's will is less. Kind of like the normal thing with Conqueror's Hockey. Your will has to be stronger than the other person's will. And, in terms of observation with Tenko's is like Hinata's, but not as much as like the future sight part. He can only see 2 seconds into the future. So like 3 seconds less than Hinata. So usually whenever they're going like, observation versus observation battle, yeah, basically, Hinata's gonna win one of those, because she can see 3 seconds further into the future than Tenko can with her observation. And she actually doesn't believe, like, sentimented, like, into her mind that this is because of the Byakugan that she's apparently supposed to have. But her observation basically replaces her Byakugan because it's just that damn good already. She doesn't even feel like she really needs to use her Byakugan unless it's just like one of those situations where it would be nice to have that. So she's more or less training her observation more than she would train her Byakugan. But she tries to even it out a little. Just a little. On the subject of, like, Tenko's, basically, conquers as long as the other person's will is weaker than his. He's good. Observation, Hinata is better than him by, like, 3 seconds. And whenever it concerns the whole time power thing, like seeing into the future. And whenever it comes to armament hockey, like the attack part and the defense part, well, the only thing that Hinata really has on Tenko in terms of the attack part of armament hockey is her strongest attack, being the 16 Heavenly Bullets God Threat. That's the only thing she really has up on him in terms of the attack part of armament hockey. But in the defense part, basically, she is outclassed by Tenko by a large margin. Because, he's kinda got, found a lot of ways to get around with that defense part. And one last thing that, probably would have to discuss about this whole thing is, well, eventually trusting themselves in their abilities with hockey and their devil fruit built, powers, they basically take the whole siege, like basically take the entire ship by siege, by storm. Basically taking out a good amount, if not all of the pirates on the ship, just taking them out one after another, sometimes several after another, like waves and waves. And then it gets to the captain, and that's whenever he notches just prepare to jump, Tenko? You prepared to jump? And Tenko's just well, considering, the whole thing with water that I ended up telling you about, plus how sand reacts to water regardless of the original devil fruit weakness, I've been born ready, you could say. And Hinata would just be oh, you. Anyways, if you're ready, then start. And that's whenever just running start, and just and then just jumps like a super jump off, and then just goes like a sand propeller, turns his, the bottom part of his body into a sand propeller, just propelling him all the way on to the surface. And basically the reason why he did this is because, well, basically, there's the ship, and if you guys know what Doflamingo can do with his Devil Fruit Awakening, like the Ito Ito no Mi, the captain has good reason to be worried. She just puts a hand on one of the beams, the beam to where the lookout is supposed to be. That guy, he's already jumped off and basically epic failed and basically gashed his head open. And the blood basically causing sharks to find him and just eat him alive. Basically, she just puts a hand on the little post and turns the entire ship into string. Basically, she would just shoot string up into the air afterwards, attaching string to the clouds, so that basically the equivalent are for flying. Yeah, she can basically do anything that Doflamingo can do. Same thing with Tenko and Crocodile. Because he's the one who had the Sunosu no Mi double power, the Sunosu no Mi. And so, yeah, basically, but not only that, but actually, soon to be even better than those guys. Because, Izuku's not stupid. He would occasionally check out of the window, to see if the ship was still there or if they were going to leave again. Because sometimes they would indeed dock near where the underwater base was. Well, they would technically be above it, but, you get what I'm trying to say. And Izuku would just see, basically, the ship would be gone. But, there would be a bunch of bloodied bodies that would look like pirates. Oh, yeah. But, one thing about this is, just because the entire ship was turned into string, doesn't mean that the pirate, the captain, would be dead. he would have actually escaped onto, like, the surface. However, he would have run into someone, run into a certain someone. He would realize that the weapon they had, or weapons, basically they would actually have 3 weapons, one on their back, and 2 weapons that basically were chained around their arms, basically so that they could hold them in their hands. Very similar into style, like the God of War, who defeated the other God of War, basically became the God of War in that way. This person known as Kratos. And then the Kratos guy eventually also got this thing called the Leviathan Axe. And so, at first the captain starts to think, did he just run into Kratos? But then he realizes, after taking a good look at the kid, well, not really a kid, they actually do seem like old enough to be Kratos, but they don't exactly look Kratos. They look different. Different enough to be able to tell that this isn't Kratos, even though it kind of has a Kratos weaponry. Because the person also has, bow and arrows. Like, on the same part of the back where the Leviathan axe is also a bow and some arrows. So yeah, Kratos and more. But if you don't know what I mean whenever I say like bow and arrows, that's basically Atreus' weapon in, God of War 4. That's what Atreus uses. He uses the bow and, arrow stuff. So yeah, basically what I'm going to say here is, the captain has just now run into a grown-up Atreus. This grown-up Atreus. He was just now going by to try to find, he believes he knows, like, the resting place of his father, where that is. He's trying to find that resting place, and someone just got in his way. And, the anger issues kind of running the family. Atreus isn't too happy. And so, basically, pulls a Mjolnir with the Leviathan axe, and just basically Captain right in half. And basically, the grown-up Atreus continues on with trying to find. Well, first, also he puts the 2 parts of the captain's body in the water for the fish to eat. And then he continues his search for his father's gravesite. Anyone that gets in his way is going to get killed. That's kind of the whole thing with Kratos' lineage. They all bad motherfuckers. So, yeah, the captain is dead. All of his men are dead. And now we are aware that there's a grown-up Atreus looking for the gravesite of his father, the previous god of war. And basically, the clock is ticking. Grown-up Atreus doesn't exactly know if he wants to, become the next god of war, just like how his father was the god of war. Or not. Like, if he wants to follow that path. He doesn't know. And so he's thinking, well, he's not only going to his father's gravesite out of respect, just pay respects. He's also, he'd be like, asking for advice. From the heavens above, or below, whatever. Wherever Kratos ended coming up, whenever he eventually died. Basically, asking for that advice. From his papa. So, yeah. Basically, yeah, that happened. And Izuku kind of knows who's responsible for, the entire ship, the captain, and all the pirates going, like, missing because he witnessed the captain get murdered. He wasn't too far away because he didn't want to run into that guy again. Because he didn't want to run into him at all because he's kind of the son of Kratos, god of war. So yeah, he was just watching from the sidelines. You know, if it had been anyone else, he would want to help the captain. But it wasn't anyone else. It was the son of Kratos, Atreus. The son of Kratos, the god of war. If it had been anyone else, he probably would have helped him, but no, it wasn't anyone else. It was the son of Kratos, the god of war. So, yeah. Too bad. At least for the captain. So, yeah. Basically, we got all that down. And, well, basically, seeing as Tenko and Hinata would have escaped the ship, they would have seen the scene with, like, the death of the captain, and that one person just looking as this person had killed the captain. You know, just, like, looking like he wanted to help, but, you know, that he knew better. And so, Hinata and Tenko, thinking that they were being stealthy, whenever Izuku, using those senses of his, you know, could already tell that he was being followed. And basically, like, right as soon as Izuku would turn around to see the two people that were, you know, following him, that's whenever Hinata would freeze up in fear, because, you know, this guy does not look like somebody you would want to mess with, considering, you know, the fact that he just watched someone get murdered and didn't even really do much. Like, so, pretty, like, hardcore badass moment. And Tenko has had enough of this shit already. You know, I kind of like that. So yeah, I would kind of do the same thing that Hinata was doing, kind of like freeze up and just like, shit. That's whenever, you know, Izuku would actually be very hospitable and be like, you guys want to come with us? You know, you don't look too good. We can help you. Like, we have like a really old base where there is some stuff that we left behind because we don't have much use for it, but, you know, you guys might. And so, Tenko and Hinata would not only be recruited, but they would get equipped, you know, and all that shit. And basically, Izuku would tell them about how the base is underwater, and then Tenko and Hinata would be like, well, how are we gonna get there if it's underwater? Izuku would just use his quirk, turn into the Lagiacrus, and grab the two of them with his tongue, and close his mouth, and swim all the way down to the base, get back down to his regular form, and spit them out at the same time. They would get spit into the actual thing, and then, like, not 2 seconds later, Izuku would come in. Basically, they'd be like, whoa, what was that? Izuku would be like, it's, my quirk, Lagiacrus. And, you know, Tenko would be like, I think I might have just found my idol. Like, the guy I want to, you know, be partners with. You know, kind of like how Izuku had All Might to be, like, his, you know, the kind of he fanboys over for. You know, Izuku would basically just give all of them the lowdown on how things work. And, you know, there would be some questions asked, like even a question from Tenko, like, "You mind helping me with a little something I've been working on?" You know, he would give, like, Tenko and Hinata would give Izuku the lowdown, basically everyone else in the area the lowdown about these powers, like the Devil Fruit powers and the powers of Haki. And, well, now that everyone was in the know-how, basically, like, Izuku would be like, "Well, what could I train you in that you don't already know?" And Tenko would be like, "It's this weird thing. Sometimes whenever I punch with a hockey-surrounded fist, like hockey-coated fist, sometimes whenever I go to punch, little sparks show up. And I don't get it." And Hinata would be like, "Well, she's seen that happen before too, but it's mostly with Tenko. She doesn't seem to really get it all that much. It's not something that she really gets the chance to show off all that often. It's not exactly it's something she would show off because it barely ever happens, and anytime it does happen, it's so short. It's like it's gone in an instant." Yeah, so basically you could say Tenko has a lot more experience with the whole fire thing that comes out of a hockey-coated fist whenever punching. And Izuku would be like, "Well, maybe I do have something I can train you in. Well, I used to be a real big hero fan. And, there was this one guy, his name was All Might, and he had, different names for all of his attacks. I want to see you try to spark up some flames." And Tenko would go to do exactly that. And actually, it'd be working better than normal. And Izuku would think, if that usually happens whenever you go to punch, oh! Tenko, I think we already have a name for that attack if you're able to successfully pull it off, that is. And, Tenko would be like, "Well, what is it?" "Red Hawk." Yes, Tenko is going to not only have the power of the Sunasuna no Mi, but he's also going to have hockey powers, and he's going to be able to use Luffy's thing, Red Hawk. Yes, I'm giving Tenko Red Hawk. Tenko just goes for this one round, covers his fist in hockey, and just yells it out loud as he goes to punch. "Red Hawk!" And then there's like, boom! There's freaking, there's a fire detector, and then a smoke detector, beep, 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 going off like crazy right before exploding. That was intense shit. And basically, Izuku's like, "Yeah, the only thing you probably have left to teach you as of now is how to control that." Tenko got so into the moment that he actually did Red Hawk. He pulled Red Hawk off. Now Izuku's just like, all we have to do now, is, teach you how to control it. And that's basically what they would be doing for quite some time, as, also they would fix the smoke detector, and, as everyone else would be working to, Izuku has an excuse as to why he's not helping everyone else. He has to help Tenko figure out how to perfectly control Red Hawk. And, well, yeah. And finally it would come the day, Tenko and Hinata, seeing as they both like each other a lot, they would kind of bunk. Tenko would be on the top bunk, and Hinata would be on the bottom bunk. You know, like all of a sudden, like you would just hear like a plop sound, and Hinata would be like, "What? What was that?" And Tango would be like, "Yes, yes, 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 yes. I think I got it." But all that matters if Izuku's awake, though. And Izuku would be like, "Got what?" Like, got milk? Because I sure do indeed want some cereal right about now. And, you know, Tanko would just be like, "Oh, got Red Hawk." And Izuku would be like, "Wait, you sure you want to do it this early in the morning?" And Tanko's like, "Of course. I mean, early bird gets the worm, right, Hinata?" And Hinata would be like, "Well, if he actually does think he's got it down, then of course, I'd love to see." So there's basically just this big gathering, this big audience to see, you know. And Izuku's like, "This time you'll have a live target, though. Me. And I won't even use my quirk. Because pretty much, we already got good medical staff as it is, so it shouldn't be too bad." And, you know, Tenko would be like, "Okay, Sensei." Yes, he would literally call Izuku Sensei. He's like, "Izuku Sensei. Okay. Huh? Red Hawk! Boom!" And, you know, that would be actually a lot of damage done in one area. And Izuku would just be like, fall on the floor, and he'd be like coughing up blood. But he'd just be like, "Got it. You got it." Hinata would just be like, "Oh dear." And, you know, like, Tenko would be like, "Damn." And, you know, whenever, you know, Izuku finally got back up and ready and raring to go again, he'd be like, "Tenko Shimura?" And, you know, Tenko would be like, "Yes, Izuku Sensei?" And Izuku would be like, "Well, here's a little something I want you to know." And Tenko's like, "Well, what is it, Sensei?" "Well, you have officially passed my training." And Tenko would be like, "Holy shit! He notices me!" He's like, well, it wouldn't be that crazy, but it would definitely be a freak out moment. Like, Tenko wouldn't really even know what to expect from Izuku, but he'd just be like, "Holy shit!" Yeah, basically now, it's basically settled here and now that Tenko does indeed know how to pull off a successful, controllable Red Hawk. And along with the rest of the powers he can do, he's also been able to extend his observation to the same time as Hinata, that being 5 seconds into the future. So yeah, basically that. And well, yeah, that's pretty much the majority of that old buff thing. Basically, actually, by the time of the end of Tenko's training, everybody goes out to realize that basically Izuku asks for GLaDOS to pull up a map of the whole area, and they realize, ta freaking duh, the entire area has been increased in size enough to fit Izuku and pretty much anyone else they would want to recruit. So basically, the entire Aperture Science building has been supersized and super reinforced. And so they would basically just have a real big celebration. Like everybody would be happy as hell. And Tenko and Hinata would be like, oh, you guys want to really celebrate? Let's tell about a little ditty that, Hinata would be like, let's tell about a little ditty that you taught me about, Tenko. What'd you say it was called? And, Tenko's like, oh, you mean bink sake? Well, don't mind if I do. Just like, and be like, and I don't even know if you guys are going to be able to hear this. But just because I want to be nice, just because I love you guys this much, if you guys can hear that, I have succeeded. Thanks, sake, everyone. Yo, yo, yo. Oh, yo, yo. damn it, Brooke's backstory is so damn sad. I'm sorry, guys, but I was gonna cry. Anyways, and that pink sister. Yo, 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 yo. And in the night, they just partied like it's no tomorrow. Partied like it's 1999. Banks' mother freaking brew.